Welcome to the Mysto Lab Podcast. In this episode, we have the Ropers from San Diego, California, a punk rock band, really active from the early 90s to about the early 2000s. It's always a good time hanging out with these guys, as you'll hear. So let's get into it. These are the Ropers. We have Anthony and Ryan Roper of the world-famous Ropers with us today. We are going to discuss all things Ropers, a legendary North County, San Diego punk band, straight out of Cardiff, California. Anthony, thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Ryan.
Hey! They got me way away from the mic, so...
Ryan does not have a microphone because...
I gotta yell because apparently I fart a lot.
Ryan does not need a microphone.
Nope.
As you can tell.
So I'm way back here.
So...
God bless me.
What I want to know is...
And your mom.
The Ropers. Who formed the Ropers? What year did you guys form? How did you guys get started?
Well, actually, it was, I think it was 93 or 94.
Yeah.
Me and this guy with a snaggletooth named Sean Ryan, we wanted to start a punk band, and he had a friend named Matt. I can't remember Matt's last name, but Matt actually was a drummer and played with Matt Hensley. He actually lived with Matt Hensley. Wow. And Rodney Mullen in Carlsbad.
What?
And so
That's
he was
insane.
So he was a drummer. He wasn't a drummer for them, but he was actually the first drummer for Pivot.
Wow.
Chris Pivot, yeah.
Yeah.
And he got kicked out, and they fired him or whatever, and got weighed or whatever. But so we were over in Escondido, and me and Sean and Matt were, Matt was all really into drumming, and I had a guitar and an amp, and Sean said, I'll just sing, And so we just jammed in the garage and made up a bunch of stupid songs, and that was. And I go, what do you want to call it? And Sean Ryan actually gave us the name, the Ropers.
Wow, that's amazing.
After Three's Company.
That's all time.
And when this guy over here on the couch, Pappy Bubble Snapper over here, his alter ego, when he got out of the Navy, Sean was off doing whatever Sean does, which God knows what he does now. So Ryan goes, yeah, I got a band. It's called Chucky's Brown Donuts, and he just made it up.
Wait, Chucky's or Chunky's?
Chucky.
Chucky's Brown Donuts. And he made that up because a friend of ours, Andrew Kulik, who was going to be my roommate later on, had a band. And, he was into, getting his band going. And he goes, hey, do you guys have a band? And Ryan goes, yes. No, Ryan goes, we're going to go see a band tonight. And Andrew goes, who is it? He goes, oh, it's Chucky's Brown Donuts. He just made it up just to fuck with Andrew. But anyways, the Ropers didn't do much, and then Ryan goes, we started jamming with our friend Ed Verdugo, and we didn't have a name, and so I go, well, we used to call ourselves the Ropers, me and Matt and Sean, so we just took the Ropers.
That's amazing.
And that was it. And we jammed in Escondido High School weight room. So 93, we started the Ropers with two other guys, and then they went off, and Matt went off and did other bands and whatever, and me and Ryan and Ed Verdugo and Jesse, which Ryan will talk about, and he'll take it over from here.
And who was playing drums and bass at that point?
At that point, we had Ed Verdugo from Valley Center playing the drums, and Jesse Nyberg playing bass.
Right. And so you guys booked a bunch of shows, you started playing out live, and started to get a pretty cool little punk rock following going and just having fun. And I know you guys made a video, and your video was for Adios, your song Adios.
Correct. It was for one of our greatest songs that we ever actually did record.
Paul Barranco directed... Shot and directed your first video for Adios, arguably your most well-known song. One of the songs that I believe that you always used to encore with, because it was the song that most people knew all the words to and would sing along to.
Well, we'd actually we would encore with it, but we would also play it like at the beginning of the set, and sometimes in the middle, and then encore. Because nobody could remember any of the songs anyways. So it was great. So if we needed a bigger set list, we just repeated all the songs.
It was a triple threat.
Yeah. Triple treat.
That's right. And so if you guys could please let us know who wrote Adios and what is that song actually about?
I'll hand this over to Pappy.
All right. Pappy, please enlighten us.
It was a song about my first girlfriend, and
so Ryan Roper wrote Adios about your first girlfriend.
I did.
So an autobiographical punk rock song about your first girlfriend.
Yeah, and she did have a mustache. I just want to be clear.
So, that being said, I would like to move on to the period of the Ropers where you introduced a new bass player who most people know as Ryan also.
New York Ryan.
New York Ryan. So how did you switch from your original bass player to New York Ryan? What was that going? What happened there?
So our original bass player, googly eyes, his eyeball was kind of googly, and he got real fed up and he didn't want to play anymore. He wanted to play something more serious, I guess, or whatever. So he quit. And we actually before we had Gummo was my roommate, but I think before that we had a guy named Bo, actually, in between that period.
Yeah, Bo.
And Bo's actually more interesting. He's more of an interesting story actually than New York Ryan.
Well, let's hear it, man. This is cool.
So New York Ryan played with us for a little bit, but he was kind of a fill-in guy, and he was just like, he was New York, whatever, And he was good, and I mean, he's a great bass player, great musician. So we've had the most members of our band actually have been bass players, which is remarkable. So after Jesse left, we had I'm drawing a blank here, but in the sequencing, so New York Ryan was my roommate. He played for a little bit. That was it. I don't know how long, but we had this guy though that was in there named Bo, and he drove this like an Australian style like Outback Renegade truck that looked like something from Mad Max, and he was a super stoner. He goes, all right, man. He brings his bass rig in, and his bass rig, his amp is covered in green AstroTurf because he loves weed. And he goes, all right, guys, I got some. He was like, and he was a cool guy, and I think Ryan knew him from somewhere, but he's like, all right, I got a song. Okay, this one goes out to all the heads out there. I'm like, what the fuck is a head?
The heads,
man. Like the stoners. Like, oh, okay. I like weed, but I'm not into weed. I'm not a weedian. I'm not into weed culture, so I don't know.
Right.
But he was introducing us to all that, and but his car though, he was the best part about him was his bass was covered with like I said, the AstroTurf, but his car was like two cars that were put together, like they were like conjoined. Like it was the tail end of some kind of pickup truck and the front end of a Jeep, and it got welded together, and we couldn't figure out how the fuck he did it and how he drove it.
Oh my god.
And so he was in there for a little while, kind of like New York Ryan, and he departed.
That does not sound legal at all, the kind of car he was driving.
Nothing about him was legal.
Nothing about him was legal.
He was a nut. And then we had our drummer Ed had his brother sit in on bass for a while. Ben, he was pretty good. He played for a little bit. And then I think at that point we got Jerry. We actually played a show in Tijuana back in the 90s before he joined, and we were actually paid in beer for that show. But it was at Mr. Crown's, I think, and
it was Mr. Crown's.
And we brought a bunch of people down, and Jerry was there, and he had long hair at the time.
Maybe.
And yeah, so we had a show at Mr. Crown's, and we had a manager I didn't mention before, Tim Hines. Do you know that guy? And he's super anal about everything. So he had a big Suburban whatever vehicle.
And this is before the show you had in TJ. Tim Hines is managing you guys at this point.
Yeah. So we load all of our equipment up into his dad's Suburban or whatever. And another guy, Mike Vergeer, who was a friend of Ryan Roper's. So we get across the border, and I had my amp head because they had speakers down there. So I just had my amp head and my guitar and cables and shit. So we get there, and we park in a parking garage somewhere off Revolution. Avenue, Revolution, or whatever. We played the gig. It was really fun. Ryan Roper strips down to his underwear and was playing the whole show in his underwear. And that's when Jerry, our future bass player, was running around the pit.
So did Jerry come down there with you?
So we about like
did he just happen to be there in TJ to see your Roper's show?
No, a whole bunch of people came down there. No, a whole bunch of people came down there to watch the show.
To see the show.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that was, and then when the show's over, we're getting ready to get out of there. And Tim Hines, his OCD and his, all of his fucking bullshit. He goes, well, let's get out of here. And Ed our drummer was sober, and Mike Vergeer, who was the guy that drove the
SUV,
whatever it was down there, was wasted and passed out in the back.
Right.
And so Tim goes, nope, only Mike drives the car. And we're like, Ed's sober, let's just get in the car and get across the border and get home. He said, no, only Mike Vergeer is allowed to drive this car.
But Mike is passed out.
And Mike's just sitting there drooling and smoking cigarettes in the parking lot. We're like, he's not driving the car.
Right.
And he's like, no, he's driving the car. And I'm like, I'm sober enough right now to drive the car. No, it's my dad's car. And he made a big deal about it. So it's 2 a.m. and Ryan Roper had already left. He's like, well, fuck this shit. And I don't know how he got home or what he did. So anyways, we told Tim, our manager, to fuck off. And we're like, fuck you, dude. You can sleep in the fucking garage in TJ. So we grabbed the guitars and amp heads, because that's all we had, and we fucking grabbed a TJ cab and got across the border and took a cab home.
Perfect.
From San Isidro.
We have an audience today in the Mysto Lab. Okay, let's get back.
So anyways, we had Jerry coming on bass. And
back up just a second if we can. Like, how did Jerry come to play bass for the Ropers?
Well, he lived next door. So that was
okay.
That's a good way to.
And he couldn't play bass. He couldn't play bass. He couldn't play any instruments, but he lived next door. And so we just So we gave him a bass that had 4 strings. He's got a thumb and 4 fingers, and that's all you need.
So he figured it out.
Yeah.
And he worked at Subway at the time, so he could make you free food.
Right.
Let's go back to the Bill Stevenson story.
Oh, yes.
This is a great story.
I cannot remember the year. It was in the 2000s at some point. I had Bill Stevenson has a studio. Bill Stevenson, obviously, of Black Flag, The Descendants, Only Crime, and a couple other bands that he was in. But he's known as the Descendants drummer, obviously. Had a studio out in Colorado and Fort Collins, and it was called the Blasting Room. And we're big Descendants fans, obviously, in Black Flag. So I gave him a call, and he answered the phone. He's like, studio? He just says studio, not Blasting Room, studio. Hey, and so I talked to him. He was I was asking him about rates and prices and stuff, and I actually had called him one time, and I left a message, I think, and that's what it was. He called me back, left me a message. He goes, Anthony, this is Bill from the Blasting Room, not from the Descendants, the Blasting Room. Anyway, because he was dropping shit. He was eating a hamburger when he was calling me. He's just so clumsy, man. He's crazy. He's like super on the spectrum, but he's super talented and super focused. Mm-hmm. He's just genuine, dude. And he's
a genius.
He's like, my dad lives in Oceanside. I think that's what your area code is. So I think I can come out there. Or me and Stefan, which is the guitar player from the Descendants, they were both doing recording and engineering at the time. We can do it for 2 days for like $700. I was like, oh shit, man. Or you guys can come out to Colorado. I mean, whatever, but we might be out there. And anyways, I'm like, that would be the dream, to be freaking recorded or whatever by Bill Stevenson.
Absolutely. But
now, of course, the Descendants are back playing live, and they've got no time for that, and that's the best thing ever. Because I'd rather have them doing that than nothing.
But that was the time you almost recorded with Bill Stevenson out in Colorado,
which would have been awesome. And I remember the message. I got the message. It was on my, not a cell phone. It was like a freaking rotary, like a landline.
Right.
So that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Amazing. The Ropers, everybody. This has been incredible. Right. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having us.
For coming in,
Ryan,
talking to us. The history of the Ropers. Anthony Roper, Ryan Roper. We've had special guests, John, the weirdest thing smart, coming in. We've got Mrs. All coming in, laughing in the background. This is epic. First episode, Mysto Lab Podcast. Thank you, everybody.
For a couple years, it was full of lots of businesses. It was great, wild and last but then it was over, and this is what I said. Adios, I think I love you. Adios, I said I think I love you. Adios, I think I love you, but hey, let's just be friends. We went out for a while, and I had fun making you smile. But then it's way and we grew apart. That's why I had to go and break your heart. Adios, I think I love you. Adios, I said I think I love you. Adios, I think I love you. But hey, let's just be friends. You know, sometimes shit doesn't work out the way you thought it would. Sometimes things you thought last friends, they just fall apart. And then you gotta tell them what I did. This is what it was. Adios, I think I love you. Adios, I said I think I love you. Adios, I think I love you. But hey, let's be friends. Let's be friends. Me and you. Let's be friends. Go hang out under a tree. Let's be friends. Me and you. Let's be friends. We'll hold hands for eternity. Adios, I think I love you. Adios, I said I think I love you. Adios, I think I love you, but hey, let's be friends. Let's be friends. Let's be friends. Let's be friends. We can still fuck.